Well, first let me just say I love the fact that the question is that the recession has come and gone because, being from the U.S., we are certainly seeing signs that we're coming out of the recession. I'm not sure I would say it's completely come and gone. I think in China and Hong Kong it's slightly better because I don't think you had the dip that we had. But, I think as it relates to talent management, the tendency in a recession is to think very short term. And very short term in many cases is layoffs, let's downsize, let's cut costs by reducing overhead, which in many cases tends to be the largest cost center. So I think that companies that don't have a good long-term vision have done that, and I think in the next few years they will pay the price for making, in some cases, very short-term decisions. I think the companies that have done a really good job of taking advantage of the downturn to look at ways that, number one, they can cut cost. They've done it through becoming more efficient. They've looked at ways to do things like shared services, improved manager and employee self-service. So they're getting information out closer to the source, collecting it, and reducing cost in process time. And in the process, they've increased productivity. So I think those are the kinds of things we've seen happen during the downturn that have been both good and bad. I would say senior management in some cases have realized that during a downturn when, for one thing, during a downturn, employees and talent in many cases are less engaged, more concerned about their long-term welfare, therefore less engaged in being productive. Realize that if you create a culture that gives employees during a downturn a sense of comfort, a sense of I have a home here, I'm going to be taken care of, that productivity will increase versus take a dip. So again, I think that if you're a great company, you've looked at the role of HR as being really critical during a downturn. If, on the other hand, you tend to look at people as a cost center, not as a profit center, if you will, then I think in those companies, short-term decisions that they'll probably pay the price for over the course of the next couple of years. One thing about being old is that I've seen the battle for talent sort of ebb and flow many times. Of course, in the late 90s with the dot-com startups and talent was, it's such a rarity, certainly in the Silicon Valley and other areas of high tech where you just couldn't get talent quickly enough. You were hiring people off the street and offering them all kinds of things. Then we had the dot-com bust, and so people started laying people off, and all of a sudden, talent shortage. Who cares about the talent shortage? We're trying to lay people off. Then we had, I think 5 years later, we saw it coming back, and now with the recession, I think, as I said earlier, I think yes, there have been consolidations, layoffs in certain industries, but in general, I think people are really beginning to understand if they look at demographics, if they just look at the facts. 15 years from now, we will have a critical talent shortage. We'll have it because in 220 countries in the world, there are only 2 countries where the population is actually growing. We know that's true in many parts of Asia, certainly in China. The population is actually decreasing, and by 2012, we'll actually be in a deficit in terms of population growth. So we know there will not be as many people entering the workforce as we've had in the past. We also know that there will be a skills shortage. The number of students graduating with degrees in science and engineering has decreased in many parts of the world by as much as 60%. So skills that we once needed for professions are now in the decrease. And much of the reason that we see a bit of a boom in China, because engineering and science is still on the decline, but not to the point that it's declining in the rest of the world. So lots of opportunities for talent in those parts of the world, which is why we see a lot of the offshoring and outsourcing. So yeah, I think it's real. I think that the talent shortage is real, and I think companies that don't understand that, which is, I said earlier, even if you're going to go through a layoff, you better be thinking 10 years from now, am I laying off people that 10 years from now I'm going to really wish that I had, or I wish that I'd had that skill set and not been short-sighted. I lived in Japan for a while, and it was always last in, first out. Even though the skill set might have been exactly what we would need in 10 years, if we were going to have a layoff, we would always lay off the people that we just hired first. And in some cases, that's not the right thing to do. That it's really critical now that that the HR department takes a very proactive role at, number one, creating a culture. And this is something that really didn't belong in HR or didn't sit in HR in many organizations in the past, that sort of that marketing role, which is, have I created a vision of what this company is, what our culture is, and am I attracting people that fit into this culture, and am I creating a place where people want to come and want to stay and want to work and want to be engaged. I think that's what a lot of people coming out of the recession are thinking. Okay, we're growing again. I have an opportunity to make a big difference in terms of that culture. If you think about technology, and I know we're going to talk probably more about technology, but we have tools today that the Gen Y, the 25 and under, as we start recruiting that segment of the population, they're already on our websites. They already know everything about the company long before they ever apply for a job. So that that communication, that creating a culture where somebody goes to our website and we have messages from Human Resources talking about the culture and why it's a great place to work, and putting people in touch with others in the company they can talk to and hear firsthand about what a great organization this is. Those are the kinds of things that I think HR will begin to focus on. They have to be PR, they have to be better communicators, they have to be more analytical, they have to know, is my time and investment in people giving me a return? If I invest in a learning curriculum, am I increasing performance? If I'm implementing a new performance management system, am I actually finding that productivity increases? So am I measuring the kinds of things that allow me to look at the value of human capital?